And I think there's a snobbishness with reading books. They are a bit outdated. They're a little bit like playing the spoons and tap dancing and the theatre. They were good once, but things have moved on.
The head's not quite on the right place. That's his little issue that he's got to work on for the moment.
My apartment smells of rich mahogany.
Look, I'm all for innovation, and I advocated putting a scrum half in the line out. It sounds great, but it's bollocks idea, really.
Hello and welcome to Under the Sticks, a podcast brought to you by PRO14 Rugby, where we are doing something a little different tonight. We're going back in time. I'm Andy McGeady. This is my time machine. It's 2001, happening very shortly for the very first Celtic League Final from the old Lansdowne Road, where we didn't know what a HIA was and we wore proper baggy rugby jerseys. Sean Holley, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Thanks. Really looking forward to this. Great idea. Obviously, there was no Ospreys or Dragons or anything from a Welsh point of view back then. It was a lot of Welsh clubs in the build-up to this final. But, you know, a lot of familiar names from when we started. We've got Welsh Regional Rugby. And we're off the back of a weekend, mate, that there was some fantastic rugby yet again. So the jeopardy that we've had in the Guinness PRO14 for European places has been fantastic. So, yeah, I'm in a good place.
Happy. Paul Williams, welcome back.
I'm back. I'm like Bobby Ewing for anyone over the age of 60 with that Dallas reference. Yeah, good to be back. Looking forward to tonight, guys.
Yeah, it is going to be good. It's something a little bit different. We haven't done a watch-along for a while. It is a good week for it, and we've got some brains in the show tonight. Paul Larter, former analyst with Scotland and Edinburgh under Cockers, no less. Now from Bucharest. How are you?
Yeah, good. It's late here, so yeah, really pleased to join and looking forward to watching the game.
Yeah, and he did some watching of this game already in the past because there's some stats which you're going to see later, which look very different to stats from games these days.
Very different. We looked at this last March actually, and the first lockdown was one of the first projects we looked at, and good to see it sort of come into fruition now, and we can have a look and see what comes of it.
It's going to be fascinating, that, isn't it? How, even things like the ball in play time, the number of rucks, how many lineouts and scrums, penalties, it's just going to be fascinating. It'll be surprising, I bet.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. Paul Williams has already pinned his colours to the mast. He thinks he's fairly confident about the result. We'll see what happens. We have to just let this roll.
Even I can't get this wrong.
So we're going out. We're going out tonight, live on all the PRO14 social channels. So get your comments in on YouTube, on Twitter, and via Facebook. Some regulars. So I was going to say locals, but it's kind of local. Michael Jenkins in from Pembrokeshire, West Wales, as always. Harley Worthy, evening gents. Gavin Doyle from Guadalajara, love it. Michael Jenkins, hope the shower was not too hot. I'm missing something there. Definitely.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely.
One of us has got a stalker, and I don't know who.
Think so. Right, we're going to talk very briefly about the games that we did have last weekend because, Sean, you were at one of the Monday night crackers. You were at the Scarlets match.
Oh, yeah, I commentated for Premier Sports, and sort of got excited about it because it was a beautiful night in West Wales, and 8 o'clock kickoff, I think it was. Yeah, it was, and went down there, and Scarlets had it all to play for. There were permutations because Cardiff Blues were playing Edinburgh. All three teams were still at that stage in the running for guaranteed European Champions Cup qualification, and it came down to really the Scarlets at least getting a win. If a bonus point win would secure it. And Connacht just came out of the traps. Not out of this, apologies. Scarlett scored first, and he thought, I actually said in commentary, Connacht are still on the bus, because it looked to me like, oh, hello, they've already qualified. And it was an easy try. And then, my goodness, for the next 35 minutes, it was all Connacht. Yes, a couple of yellow cards for the Scarlets, but they played so well. They were playing to the wide channels, offloading. Marmion was dictating things. And Daly in the centre was fantastic. Papali stayed on the field and was a wrecking ball for the whole time. But you know what then? So you have to do like a 3 minutes for the world feed then, fill in, right? Because we're not the main game on Premier Sports. You fill in for everybody in the world that's listening. And you're chatting away and you're thinking, oh, well, you know, Scarlets can't come back from this 33-12 at halftime. Yeah. They put Johnny Williams, the Wales squad centre, on. Ryan Elias, the Wales squad hooker, on. Transformed the game. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Johnny Williams looked like someone from Die Hard. He came in, he's just like a one-man wrecking machine.
It was unbelievable. Brilliant play. You know, it wasn't like Connacht switched off, all right, that's the end of that. It was a case of a game of two halves, and they run away with it. And they got the bonus point win and qualify for Europe. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It is good that we're talking about good Welsh things, because there was a Welsh clean sweep in the Pro 14 this weekend. We're not going to touch on the rest of Welsh rugby just yet. We might get to it in the comments if people ask us to. Paul Williams, Cardiff, that was a useful win.
That was a useful win. Incredible. You know, I've my column this week. It's in. There's the first mention. We've been in about 2 minutes. It's almost like a piece of Russian propaganda for Wales. It's all about the Welsh regions this weekend. I thought Cardiff Blues are fantastic. Scarlets we've done. Dragons are amazing. I thought Hewitt versus McLean was like one of those head-to-head battles that rarely comes off, but really did. It was brilliant. They all played really well, and it's the one thing I've mentioned in my column this week. You know, that the regions have had a lot of slagging off over the last 5 seasons from a lot of different areas, and I think if you're going to be coming in heavy with the boot of criticism, then you've also got to be coming in quite heavy with the boot of praise. So I'm hoping the regions and the Welsh squad get all the plaudits they deserve in the next couple of weeks.
That's what Peter Clouseau was sent to Australia for, the boot of praise. He called it.
That's exactly it. Praise.
First time since the 15-16 season that all four Welsh regions won in the same weekend. That's not to be sniffed at, including a Dublin win, which we won't talk about.
It's a pretty sad statistic, though, isn't it? You know, when you think of it. And as much as I want to put the boot of praise, as you say, Paul, we still haven't won anything.
No, I know.
You know? And I keep telling you, you know, it's all about what's in the cabinet, right? Those shiny things is very, very important. So it's a sad statistic, first time since, 2015-16 season. And that's really surprising, isn't it? It just goes to show the drop off that we've had. And I think you could say, Paul Larter, that Scotland now, the two Scottish sides are going through a little bit of that transition. They both had difficult seasons, haven't they?
Yeah, no, they have. I mean, Glasgow, obviously, Danny's come into Glasgow, and he's changing the way they're playing. It's not the same old Glasgow that we're used to. Run from anywhere. It seems to be a lot more sort of thought out and putting the pressure back down on the other end of the field. And Edinburgh are going through a bit of a change as well. New players coming through, and both teams have recruited pretty well for next year. So it'll be interesting to see what they do next season.
Will be. That's good product placement. Well done, Williams. Doing very well.
Isn't it great to see that Williams is back glugging a large plastic bottle of crap, sugary crap? Like,
it's one of the finest soft drinks in the world. Pepsi.
Exactly. And if they come and sponsor the show, it'll be definitely the officially finest soft drink in the world. Can we talk about the Rufus?
Tell you what, Rufus McLean. If Loch Lomond find out I've put Pepsi Max on their whiskey, that's me gone.
That is pretty true. We got 1 minute till kickoff, folks. Rufus McLean's try. We have to talk about the try. If you have not seen this try there was a lot going on. It's unbelievable.
He's brilliant. I commented on him the week before. Ospreys up in Glasgow. He scored a cracker and he played really well. This guy is fearless. That's what he is. And all of a sudden he's come out of nowhere. He's been training with Scotland. He chases kickoffs like the road runner. He's unbelievable. Yeah. And the try was like the road runner, being chased by the wily coyote, but nobody could catch him. He was unbelievable.
The sidestep he put in, I referred to it almost like a glitch step. So he almost stopped time.
Matrix.
It's like a real little woof. incredible. You know, you don't often see Jordan Williams and Ashton Hewitt looking at each other thinking, what just happened there? But they were.
He was assigned to my club at Super 6 in Scotland, Burmuir, before, you know, the pandemic.
Yeah.
He trained a couple of times. You know, we didn't see him very often, but trained a couple of times with us, played one game. His feet are ridiculous. You just don't see him.
He's like Jason Robinson style footwork, though, isn't he? He's like ridiculous.
Right, here we go. We've got teams are out, folks. Teams are out. We've got some interesting people already in the comments. I see Brett Igo there. Brett Igo was the analyst on Matt Williams' coaching team for this game. So he's in the comment section. This is good.
Matt Williams, that's an interesting guy.
Yeah. Lego hair, Matt Williams. I love Matty. It's good value. Reggie Corrigan, Paul Wallace, Shane Byrne, Munch in the front row. Eric Miller. Keep an eye on Eric Miller. Don't come in late. You might miss him. Victor Costello, Keith Gleeson, a very, very handy back row. O'Mara, Nathan Spooner. I haven't heard that name in a while. Shane Horgan in the centre, back when he really was a 12. Brian O'Driscoll, we've heard of. Gordon Darcy when he was still a winger.
Yeah.
Right. And Gervin Dempsey, royalty, now a very good coach. Dennis Hickey, people now will not realise how fast Dennis Hickey was. He was unreal. What a team.
I told him my very quick Dennis Hickey story. Oh, we can't do Munster first.
Let's go Munster, right? Marcus Horan, Frankie Sheehan, Peter Clousey could play both sides, remember? So he was playing instead of John Hayes today, who was injured. Mick Galway, Paul O'Connell. O'Connell's a youngster here, only 22. Jim Williams is here. We'll talk about where he came from later. Anthony Foley, back in his pomp, which is great to see. Alan Quinlan being very Alan Quinlan in this game. Peter Stringer wasn't available. He was injured. He was on crutches after the previous week. So Mike Prendergast is in at 9. Rowan O'Gara, we have heard of, at 10. Rob Henderson. They had injury issues coming into this game. So Henderson possibly not fully fit, but gives it a good go. John Kelly, John O'Neill, 13 and 14. Anthony Horgan at 11. Dominic Crotty, a few caps now for Ireland. And Declan Kidney at coach. Between these two lineups, right, you're looking at most of the Ireland team that played against New Zealand that same November. So this is good. And do you know who the referee is, Sean?
It's Nigel Whitehouse.
And who's he the father of?
It's not Ben Whitehouse, it's Nigel Whitehouse.
That's his dad. Another Gowerton connection.
Here we go, and we're away. Nathan Spooner kicks off. This is great, lads. Listen, enjoy, everyone. We've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah, Slanch. I mean, this there's a lot of names on there that caused me a lot of sleepless nights in the mid-2000s. And he's one of them, Nigel Whitehouse.
He's one of them, and he's not even playing. Look at the size on Brian O'Driscoll's shirt. You could have got 2 kits out of that if you'd split those.
Nothing's changed. 3 Leinster players in from the side, first ruck.
Oh, that's cold. That's cold.
Cold. So, hey, Leinster don't even challenge now. They'd have just left that alone.
While we've got a break in play, right? Let's talk about, this was the first year of the Celtic League, right? The first ever time they'd done it. The Heineken Cup had been going for a little while, but we didn't have regional rugby. So Sean, you referenced this earlier on. So I'm gonna read out the Pool A table from this season, right? So Leinster, Ulster, Glasgow, Clonethley before they were Scarlets, Swansea, Bridgend, Pontypridd, and Abbey Vale, and the Pool B table: Munster, Connacht, Neath, Newport, Cardiff, Edinburgh, and Caerphilly. So the Borders, Mr. Larter, they weren't there yet. They arrive next year. Like, this is a completely different era of rugby, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Neath were pretty strong under Lynn Jones, who became the first head coach of the Ospreys. So, but it's a reflection, really, of how many clubs that Wales had to have or had, you know, to service and share the funding around. And it wasn't sustainable because even, you know, Neath aside, who I think finished 3rd, and Clonethley finished 4th in the first pool. You know, all the others are in the bottom half, towards the bottom, so it wasn't sustainable. And the argument is that in the last couple of years. It hasn't been sustainable with 4 teams. So yeah, good old days, the club rugby. But then you look at the support here, and you look at the magnitude of each team. I said in jest about players give me sleepless nights. Look at what O'Connell went on to become, what O'Driscoll and Darcy went on to become. And there's legends of the game. Axel, Jim Williams was amazing. You're talking about Gervin Dempsey, Dennis Hickey. It's unbelievable. It rattles off. Alan Quinlan, don't forget. Pain in the backside. O'Gara, crikey, it's amazing.
It's basically an Ireland all-star game, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah. You got Wally in, Wally's tight head for Leinster. The test tight head in '97 Lions.
Yeah, exactly.
Against very, very, and he was a small prop even at the time.
Yes, he
against
was.
The absolute giants on that South African tour.
Yeah. Do you know what? I remember meeting Paul Wallace at a dinner and thinking how small he was for a tight head. And I know some of the tight heads lose quite a lot of weight. You look at Ben Alexander now out in Australia, he looks like he's about 10 stone. But
for how much the guy can drink as well.
I'm not getting into that. I don't remember much after meeting him, if I'm honest.
Just lots of pop. Mr. Larter, when you're looking at a game like this, like when you were coding this first time, right, back in first lockdown, it just must strike you immediately that I'm not actually coding this like a normal game.
Yeah.
No, it was really interesting to watch the first time back. I remember it took a while to get it through because the file was so big, and sort of getting it down to a bit smaller, and then sitting watching it for the first time was, the mistakes. There were so many. The scrums were a lottery. To what they are now, lineouts. Simple calls that they were getting and going where it's a lot more movement now and everything like that. It's just it's night and day. Even like the first couple of minutes, the amount of red cards there probably should have been now, nowadays compared to what it was, then. And it's the game's moved on so much.
I've seen 28 penalties, Paul, already.
Yeah. About 4 then.
Yeah.
Do you know, Paul, what's really interesting that you said about the scrummaging, because it's one of the things that kind of irritates me about when people hark back to the good old days. That, and when you look some of the greatest tries of all times that the Barbars scored, and 4 players have dived the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I won't mention that. But scrummaging, to me, it's a lot more solid now than it ever was back then.
Hold on, pause. We have a try. We have a try for anyone who wants to watch this back or listen back. Anthony Foley's gone over. And I'd like to draw everyone's attention to Frankie Sheehan's clear out.
Yeah. Did anyone see Alan Quinlan's... Alan Quinlan, right? Was it Leo? Was it Leo playing 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's Leo and O'Kelly.
Watch Quinny under the sticks now, right? Here he comes. Watch now. Here he comes. Boom.
Yeah. Have that.
Yeah, we're in the days for this
as well.
Blue and red hat. There's Leo going over. Here it comes.
Yeah.
Like
right on the throat.
In fairness,
right on the throat.
Leo Cullen would appreciate that kind of canny play by Quinlan, right? Because both of them, in different ways, were players who made a career out of making life messy to the opposition. Just messy,
That would have been a red now, though. If you clapped somebody around the throat like that. I know there wasn't an awful lot of force, but it's enough. Yeah, but going back to that scrummaging point, like scrummaging looked a lot messier 20 years ago to me than the stuff you see now. I know there's a lot more resets, but
they're looking for more stability nowadays, and
that
was probably the last thing on the mind was get it in and get it out sort of straight away, and whatever happens. But certainly the scrum's such a big part of the game now, and teams are spending hours and hours and hours on the field, on the practice field, trying to get it right.
Yeah,
it's a fine art now, I suppose.
Well, the level of detail that Cobiciero goes into on his channel. Have you seen the level of detail he goes into scrummaging?
No, I've not seen any of that yet.
Right, if you're a scrum nerd, which I'm becoming more of increasingly, right, it's unbelievable. The level of detail on there, it's frightening.
Interesting comment from aforementioned former Leinster analyst Brett Igo that restart was called a crotty, designed specially for this game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's interesting. I always like little nuggets like that.
Yeah.
Gerard Fitzpatrick, has there ever been a better Leinster try than Dennis Hickey in the Heineken Cup away to Toulouse? We could come up with a couple of different candidates, but I want to hear the Dennis Hickey story, Sean.
Oh, I'm not sure it might have been that game. Is it? Well, anyway, so a mate of mine was a referee, okay, and he reffed at a pretty high standard. But for European games, he was called on the line to be the assistant referee, right? And his nickname is Handbag, right? And I shouldn't say that, but that's his nickname because he talks a lot, right? And anyway, we call him Bag, and he's a fuss pot, and we take the mickey out of him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But this particular night, he's Leinster, and I think it might have been in France or whatever, and he's not the fittest of blokes, but he always says he's fit and he runs and he's quick and this, that, and the other. Well, as it turns out now, he's doing Leinster, and Dennis Hickey gets the ball and goes a full 50, 60 meters straight down the touchline, right? And it's on Simon's side. So we're watching. We've all turned up in the pub to watch it live on telly, right? And Dennis Hickey is just going away from him at the rate of knots, right? From the side view. Well, worse was to come for him, because you know when the cameraman goes down the touchline from the corner flag, it's like Chariots of Fire. He's got Dennis Hickey running and Simon's blowing, trying to keep up with his flag and his shell suit, and Hickey is just herring away. Well, you know, we've got footage of it now, and never ever let him live it down.
Oh, fantastic.
There's Mike Mullins. Haven't seen that man in a little while. Like, these are just the great. I love seeing names like this pop up.
He run his weight, that boy.
I'm a little disappointed with Shane Byrne's hair. Now, for a man who made a living and a reputation off that mullet, it's looking a little sensible in this game.
That's normal. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not like the vintage mullet that we remember.
No, exactly, yeah. Or maybe it's just got bigger in my head. Gerard Fitzpatrick has picked something up about the Quinlan-Leo confrontation. Not the last time Quinlan put his hands on Leo's face. Wow, that's cold.
That is cold.
That's
I
bad
tell you
memories.
what, right, in the opening 9 minutes of this, Shane Horgan is getting absolutely battered in the 12 channel. That's the third time he's gone backwards.
Tell you what you'll notice straight away from modern rugby, right? No block runners.
No, you're on your own.
There's been no rugby league coaches in Union yet at this point.
Yeah. So if you're a one-up carry, you're a one-up carry.
Right. So now's the time to do it, right? So we're at the start of this game. So while you're watching this, folks, think back to there's been 20 years of rugby development. Never mind law changes, but this is about how people view the game and the kind of influences that have come into the game. So you're not seeing pods, right?
Yeah,
you're not seeing, the forwards littered throughout the pitch. There's a load more set pieces in this game than you're used to seeing. So you do have that tightening of the forwards around. What else would you point to, Sean?
I tell you what, the height of that kicking tee is another one. Did you see how low that ball was on the floor? It's about a centimetre off the ground.
Yeah. And the ball is almost vertical. It's not the same kind of kicking style. Even watch O'Gara when he takes a kick later, you'll see the same thing. It's not like he does later in his career.
God, I thought that had been in like 25 years, like that development. Obviously not.
But obviously, the line speed in defence. It's like watching a different game. They would have pushed a lot. Ironically, there wouldn't have been a lot of defence coaches around the 2001. All right, it would have been a head coach and assistant coach. That's what we had in 2003 at the Ospreys. So I ended up doing lots of different facets. And so it wasn't till around about the year after this or the year after that, the World Cup, that you would have had some designated defence coaches coming in, rugby league guys. So you'll see the line speed. They're coming up close to the ruck, but O'Driscoll would be holding off. Whereas now in the 13 channel, they're really hard pushing up. Yeah. Excuse me. You'll see a lot of kicking. You know, people mourn these days. Oh, the games. It was never. You know, there's too many kicks in the game. You know, there's probably less kicks in the game. Paul will back me up here. I don't know. I can't say that, but traditionally, rugby football has been about kicking the arse off the ball.
I mean, both Munster and Leinster. You know, I'd say they probably still kick quite a lot. You know, they've got good kicking games. They've got good, exit strategies to try and get out. And certainly when, club environments, that was always a threat, especially Munster. You know, Conor Murray's kicking out of hands, one of the best in the business.
You know, O'Gara's kicked it. I think he's had it 3 times. He's kicked it twice.
Yeah.
In the 22.
O'Driscoll's touched it once and kicked it.
Yeah. You also used to see a lot more of up and unders around the posts back in the day, didn't you? Like an attacking kick under the posts, which you don't tend to see now.
Oh, Gary Owen.
Yeah, right underneath the bar.
Yeah, you're right, because we call it the contestable, but it can be from anywhere. You might be doing that kick from your own 22, landing in the halfway, or you know what I mean? It's a different type of kick now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good piece on Sam Larner, friend of the pod, did a piece on, I think, Planet Rugby a few years back. He was looking back on the 2003 World Cup final, but doing the same kind of journey. You know, what don't you see? What comes into the game over the years? And a lot of it is league influence. Like there you go. There is one backline there. There is not a first wave and then a second deeper option. You know, Paul, when you're looking at, here we go, Brett Igo in again with the knowledge. Alan Gaffney, Randwick, was the backs coach, good old-fashioned coach. Willie Anderson was the line-out coach. Matty Williams coached the defence. There you go.
Yeah, there's no one there for a drag back, is there? It's all one line.
Old man Willie boy, which industrial estate was this game played on? Excuse me, I will have you know. That is the hallowed turf of the old Lansdowne Road, before we had the newfangled goodness and swishness of the Aviva Stadium. It did get a bit sandy, but yeah. Michael Lamar, this is a great spot. You'll see this a few times in this game. The diving pass by the scrum half is a lost art. There's a few of those in this game.
Yeah.
In the last line out, how lethargic and slow Paula Connell was. You know, how many steps did you see it, Paul? It was like ridiculous. You'd pick that off nowadays, wouldn't you?
Oh, it's and that's the amount of analysis that goes into lineouts and where certain guys are, little triggers, everything that goes into the game now is frightening.
Big hit, big separation on the scrum. Don't see that anymore. They've outlawed the hit now.
Great one. So I was asking yesterday, I put something out, asking people what they thought were big changes in the last 20 years. Front rows immediately are coming back, getting rid of that hit. You know, it's going to lengthen careers.
It's like there's got to be a penalty. That is.
How many players in that rock?
There you go. That's 3 out of 4, O'Gara.
Yeah.
Another bomb. What's really interesting is how high the locks' bums are in the air in that scrum. Do you notice how that their bums are above the shoulders, which that almost looked like a uncontested scrum that I was on about earlier.
Ooh.
Producer in with a off the record comment that I'm not going to read out. The Claw was having a smoke in that last ruck. We are in the era of ruck inspection, clearly, right? So if you watch, it isn't just that we haven't developed the game plan around the forwards getting involved in the back line. It's that they really aren't arsed. That's not their job, clearly, right?
There's a good point here from Gavin Doyle. One thing that's changed is back then the replica jersey looked better on the fans because the fans the fans now have to wear the tight shirts that the players wear, don't they?
Yeah, you can carry a bit of weight in one of those shirts, can't you? You can get away with a couple of stone.
That's 10 pints of Guinness shirt, that isn't it? You're happy with that?
I can't remember the last time I wore a rugby jersey.
Oh, I've got 3 hanging up. I don't even look at them. They make me cry when I see them. They're horrible. It's like
look at where the defensive line is in this scrum.
Yeah.
Right. So remember what we've seen that we've seen that over the last couple of years as well. You know, they're right up.
Yeah.
Especially in the last couple of months with the new variations of, creeping and making
Yeah.
sure they're 10 meters and 5 meters and, everything else.
Right. Tell the people what you mean by that, because it's a good point.
Oh, it's just about the, set piece, making sure we've got defensive lines back, so attacking teams have got the opportunity to have a go, really.
Yeah.
Instead of being defenses right up.
You will have seen referees do this at lineouts, Andy.
Yeah.
They're putting their arms up like this, holding the back lines, because you have to stay 10 meters back on a lineout until the ball has left the line of touch, or it goes over 15. And so what sides are doing is they're bringing it down into a maul. It's not going past the line of touch, and defenses are creeping up, aren't they, Paul?
Yeah.
Well, the refs are really, you see them hold their arm up now saying, stay. A few people have been caught offside.
Yeah, the big change I've noticed in the last couple of months is the offside from an attacking kick. And if you don't retreat, they've pinged a lot of teams, and there must have been a little memo that we've been made aware of.
It's definitely an initiative.
It's got to be, isn't it? Because the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's a big one to try and, again, to give teams an opportunity to counterattack.
Yeah, I think they should make us aware of those memos, just so you know that should be on the broadcast before it comes on. Something to keep an eye on, because unless you're watching ridiculous amount of rugby like we are,
do you know who gets them?
Refs.
Yeah, they all go out to various refereeing societies and stuff like that. So if you do, there are places on the internet where such people gathered, and you can learn about these things. It's weird.
Just going back to the line out. Sorry. No, I was just going to say about the line out, certainly over the weekend, the amount of balls that go over the top now for the 12 running on to try and catch those offside lines. Try and get quick ball and then try and play around the corner. I mean, France ran one against England 2 weekends ago. And they scored in the corner, little wraparound play. And that's what teams are trying to do. Just try to get at these defenses that have to be 10 meters back to try and create holes and ultimately score tries. So
another thing, looking at that kick to touch there.
He spiraled that, didn't he?
Well, it was an unintentional spiral, but it's the point I'm going to make. It's not the common end over end kick that we're used to seeing now.
That's one thing I've noticed out in Romania. The old spiral bomb is a big thing here, and
is
the
it
boys
really?
can hit them. They practice it a lot. It's very impressive when they get it right.
So we're coming up to a fairly interesting 10 minutes in this game.
We are indeed.
Without giving away any secrets. Who's the out half? So Sean Liam Malloy asking who's the out half. That's the Leinster out half, I presume, who just missed that touch. That was Nathan Spooner. Nathan Spooner, who he signed this year for Leinster, replaced by Felipe Contepomi 2 years later, when Leinster were told by the IRFU, well, you can sign Contepomi if you want, but you're not keeping them both, pal. And poor old Spooner was left looking for a job fairly late on.
Actually, Andy, wasn't there somebody in between Contepomi and Spooner?
Not directly in terms of
Yes, it was.
Go on.
Oh, hang on.
Dave Holwell.
Wasn't he after?
Holwell was...
Hold on.
Someone's going to fact check you. Right.
All right. Producer's coming in with a fact check, right?
Here we go.
He's fairly sure it was 05.
05, Holwell, was he?
Yeah.
I looked at him.
He was a great little out half. He made the most out of any kick to touch. It always just dropped over by about a yard.
Yeah, I looked at him because he played a bit with Spice. We signed Spice, and we were looking for somebody. We just had Gavin Henderson instead.
Oh, that must have been a struggle having him. He was in his pomp then, didn't he? 2003, 4, 5.
Doesn't it seem to you, boys, there's a lot of space on the field?
Yeah, massive. Gaps everywhere. Yeah, it really does.
We will not see so much space in the game this weekend, which is Munster Leinster live on Air Sport 1, Premier Sports 1, and on TG Car. There'll be much less space. That's John O'Neill puts the foot in touch. Doesn't go well for him.
I tell you another thing to look at now, right, is the somata type of the players, right? So you look at the body shape of the players. They're not small. They're all nice break. That's
look
why
at
he's
that.
in the centre.
That's why he's in.
He's not. Horgan
he's short.
somehow can't get there. That's a super break, but like Horgan somehow doesn't get to that line. You'd have put your house in it from 10 yards out.
He looked just tall enough to fall over them, didn't he? I know what you mean though, Sean. They all look a lot lighter and lither and taller and thinner, don't they?
Yeah, well, they're probably a little bit more percentage body fat as well. I would hazard the guess.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this line.
The ramping up of conditioning would have been around this time now. A lot of conditioning coaches employed and real use of weights techniques, but there's naturally big guys. But Jim was big Jim Williams. Mick Galway was always a bit of a lump, as was Costello.
It's very. Watch the replay of this, because Mike Prendergast is in trouble here, right? He's in big trouble, and he's just discovered it. That's when he still had beautiful red hair. And if you watch the replay of what he gets sin bin for, it will look weird compared to what you see a million times a game now. So when they show us this replay, you're going to see him basically just be a jackal. And it just looks odd because it wasn't part of the game. Is that what he got pinned
for? For reaching over the top?
For slowing down the ball. Because it was not an accepted part of the game back then.
I presume he elbowed somebody.
Nope.
Good Lord.
So we saw in the very first couple of minutes, right, we saw a penalty for going straight over the top and sealing off, right? Yeah. So that's kind of the same thing, except the smarter red never. Watch it here.
He's on his feet.
On his feet. Reaching for the ball.
No way.
Yeah. He's yellow carded for it.
So what's that mean? They've instantly declared it. I don't understand why that's illegal, though.
You just need to. Rugby has evolved over a couple of years. It's a different game now.
Yeah. You can still turn the ball over, though.
Well, it's 20 years ago, mate.
Yeah.
No, the term jackal hadn't been invented.
Yeah.
What I mean is the Leinster 7 went over the top then and tried to jackal in that ruck there.
Well, the Leinster 7 will be trying to get rid of the player, right? So if you look at rugby 20 years ago, they'd have wanted Prendergast to drive through in a ruck as opposed to trying to rob the ball.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So clean out as opposed to jackal.
Yeah,
that's an interesting one.
Oh God.
Now, this doesn't look good.
Something tells me we know what's coming, yeah?
So Eric Miller has been told he's leaving the field. We have had no fuss. He is simply being told, "You're gone, son."
No TMO.
There's no bringing the captain over either.
No.
Like the captains are being told afterwards.
Yeah. Just an instant bolt gun to the back of the net.
Nigel's seen it. He's obviously seen it, isn't he? Look what he's watching. Nigel Whitehouse, he's seen it. It's right in front of him.
You can see Eric Miller taking his frustration out, I think, on Anthony Foley.
I have no choice but to put him off. He's just saying, "Listen, I saw it. It's done." There's no argument.
Imagine doing that now.
Policeman see Nigel Whitehouse.
That's not the best. That's not the best replay. The best replay is coming up very, very soon, and it looks very, very painful. Here it comes.
Oh my God.
What a very silly act.
I tell you what, you'd be on social media for a month if you did that now.
Well, us watching this back and showing it, poor old Eric Miller might get a lot of stick after this.
We're just digging up an old grave, just raking it up.
He was suspended for a month after that.
For a month?
4 weeks?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, Nigel Whitehouse would have been a serving policeman at this stage, a sergeant, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit more, inspector, 2001. So, oh, Rog, what have you done?
That's a drag. And, as was his son Ben, who's a policeman, wasn't he?
Yeah. Ben gave it up to become a full-time professional referee.
Talk about following your father. Literally.
That is, I'm not sure I've ever seen Rogers' career a miss like that.
No, that's a dreadful. I can't believe he's missed that. I wonder what the
Right.
kicking percentages were back then as well. They must have been lower.
Larter, that's for you. Come on.
Yeah, I might pull that one out of somewhere. Taking a couple of weeks off finally.
But just looking at the height of that kicking tee, things have improved since then. Just to be able to get your foot under the ball.
Do you know
Probably
who
like
number 20
Ragnar.
has come on as the scrum half for Munster?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah,
Who
go on.
did?
Will I leave it with you for a second, Holly?
I'm trying to rack my.
I like this. Andy's goading him tonight with facts about this match.
I may have put in some time to research this game.
I was going to say, how many times have you watched this?
There's Rob Henderson, back from Wasps, or here from Wasps.
Is it a young nine who's replaced him?
He would have been youngish at the time, yeah.
Oh,
Because he wouldn't be that. He'd be of your vintage now, Williams. Actually,
Oh God!
still very much involved in the game, but not in the coaching role.
Oh really?
Yep, he was involved in the game this week. Guth suggests Frank Murphy. No, we are before the Frank Murphy era, but it's a good shout. DMC Peter Stringer. No, Stringer was not available for this game. Owen Redden. Interesting one from Anton.
no,
League 3.
Red
No.
was later.
Yeah, he's later.
Racking my brain. I'm trying to turn around.
He must be involved in commentary then.
Not commentary, no.
Not commentary.
It's a little more subtle than that.
I tell you, we just had a glimpse of theirs when it was the late.
Oh,
Your
I'm
man.
with you.
Media
Garrity.
man. Yeah, Pat Garrity.
Pat Garrity.
I've shared a few Guinnesses with that man.
Yeah, he passed away a couple of years ago. He was a long time media man for Munster. The clock and the score graphic is wild.
It is, isn't it?
That's new. That's new. That wasn't the original. This is even better. It's do you know what it is? It's Derrick Hegarty. And do you know who Derrick Hegarty is now? Derrick Hegarty played for Leinster, played for Munster, played for a couple of different clubs. Then he went back to do law. And Derrick Hegarty is the man who flew from Ireland to Japan to represent Bundy Aki in the World Cup when he got his red
No
card.
way.
And he represented them this week, to my knowledge. There you go.
Do you know what I think I've just noticed as well? Is the back rows can stand off the scrum.
Great shout.
Is that why their body height is so high?
No, I just think they're a little bit lazier and less conditioned.
I was just thinking if they know they can detach, so they don't bother pushing so much.
I
So
think
you're going for a
Big Jim
general.
was off the scrum there, defending in midfield.
God, imagine that now. Be even worse. Another 3 players in midfield.
I've also just realised it only takes me one double Loch Lomond whiskey to feel a little bit merry.
It's a nice drop.
All hail to Loch Lomond 12-year malt. Or perhaps I'm drunk for a while.
And that was a drop without a penalty advantage. Don't often see that anymore.
But genuinely now, how many kicks have we seen?
Yeah, a lot.
For all those people who say, the game's rubbish, it's all kicking these days. It's always been a kicking game. It always has. You watch the 1973 Barbarians against New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
They kicked the ass off the ball, both teams.
Do you know the other thing that because there wasn't social media or so much televised rugby, you only ever saw a clip of the greatest try of the year. That's the other thing, isn't it? You see, it's like, the greatest tries. And you're probably watching 4 tries from 6 years of rugby.
Sorry, the loop
angle.
one hit.
It's still doing that.
The loop one hit. 10 to 12, run around. 10 gets it back, hits full back, bang.
Yeah.
Unless he was going to give up possession, had no option but to hang on.
Here it is, 10, 12, have it back, boom. I was hitting a Driscoll, is it? Or was it Darcy?
I just find this fascinating that all these back moves just remind you of when you were in school because they're just that it. They're backs moves. There's no one else involved.
No.
Now you get the forwards involved, and then they all get their running lines wrong, and
clogging up stuff.
Then the backs moan at them in the meetings, and
Look at that.
Yeah, I think there's been something like 24, 25 kicks already.
Really? God. It's quite a good lesson watching a bit of retro rugby, because it makes you realise it wasn't all rose tinted, doesn't it?
It's like anything, innit? You watch the highlights, and that's what people really remember. People like me and Paul, we watch every minute of every game, which is and several times.
Yeah.
Yep.
See that hard and flat in the front.
Yeah.
Leo takes it one-handed like this.
Yeah. Oh, there's a few detachments there. Jesus.
You just know they've had a bloody good.
Look at that.
They're like a C4, yeah. You know they've had a great night after this, haven't they?
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling. They've had a good old tussle. No rules really, no laws. Get on with it, and then we'll have 10 pints of Guinness after. Brilliant.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
It is a little less. There's a lovely spiral from Spooner now up the line. That's really nice. It is different. It's much more ref by feel and blatant infringement.
That's a really good point. That is. Yeah, by feel.
It's more of an art than a very black and white legal approach to refereeing. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, you're right. Ref by feel. That's a lovely expression.
Well, there's a bit of line speed coming in there.
Oh, imagine having that ball on your own.
Lovely kick.
That's nice, though.
It's funny when you look at the kid. I'm looking forward to seeing the Mr. Larter's stats at half time, because I want to see the stats backing up what we're seeing. You know what I mean? Because sometimes they can be a little bit, you remember stuff, and I like this. Harley Worthy, I get why Squidge started his World Cup retrospective at 2011.
2011.
And for any Irish person who remembers the 2007 World Cup, I'm very happy with that too.
2007 World Cup has been erased from the minds of all Welsh people, so
it didn't happen.
Can't remember anything about it.
I tell you what's interesting is there are no ruck guards, so it's just whoever's sort of near moves a bit nearer.
Good point. Here we go.
Hang on.
Higgy's looking.
Oh, he's done well there.
He has done though. Why would you do that kick?
So Williams, you're on something there, because your namesake Matt Williams got back to me yesterday and said one of the biggest impacts he's seen in the last 20 years was referees allowing defending players to stand offside at both set plays and rucks. It seems to have snuck through without any official permission. So that's kind of what you're not seeing in this game.
Yeah.
Why would you try Gary Owen?
Exactly, that's what I just said. Yeah, you know, what was that?
Yeah.
But if you look at that view from behind, what's the Munster backs defending? They literally were running across field.
Yeah,
they were.
Yeah.
So what's this for here, Sean?
I missed that. It must be closing the gap. I don't know. If it's a free kick,
That's
a high
that didn't look good.
That'll be. Oh no, he's giving it.
Yeah, free kick.
This guy was underrated for me, Anthony Hogan, as he runs into touch. But he was
tackled into touch.
He was ugly effective, if you know, in a kind way.
Yeah.
Low, sort of shorter legs, low center of mass, and this is the high tackle, Keith Gleeson. How that's red now?
Yeah, that'd be red straight away.
Red.
You wouldn't even TMO that.
Take a lot of
should be down to about 9 players on each side at the moment.
This would be off now if this is a modern game. We'd be saying goodbye.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, you can see why now these players have come to the fore. Why the safety, and if we talked about conditions improved and there's less space on the pitch, and you know, with these sort of things going in continuously, sanctioned penalty, which it was back then, why former players are coming forward having had problems, and why we need to make the game, in all seriousness, why we need to make the game safer.
Totally. And I was thinking about it in the week, and this isn't based on data, and I'm clearly not a doctor, but I almost wonder if it was that generation of players where the physicality and conditioning had increased, but the refereeing was still quite laxed. Why they are the ones suffering now? Because you don't tend to see players from this generation with the big problems. It's more from the ones 2005 on, isn't it? And I'm wondering whether it's because they got bigger, but the hits were still loose.
But look at this now, Paul, right? Jim, to me, looks like he has some symptoms of concussion, right?
Yeah. Today you'd be going, that lad looks shook.
They're taping his head up.
I know.
And play on.
Go. Yeah.
So can we just? This is a good one, right? Because if we think so, there is no HIA in this game. Okay. Now, if you were out cold, you might be sent off, or you might be given smelling salts, right? But the HIA only comes in 11 years later.
Yeah.
And it's not even a proper. It's not even called the HIA yet. The HIA only gets called that in, I think, 2014. And then it gets introduced properly into the game in 2015. So we think it's been around forever, but it's actually still very, very new, And
in the early years, you were deemed a wuss if you went off after having it. It took 3 years for people to appreciate that staying off was the right thing to do.
A little bit. I mean, I could see you shaking your head there, Mr. Larter. It is amazing when you look back and see that these things just not here and not thought about.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've been involved in the HIA sort of, with the footage and everything else for the doctors and, seeing players. And I've seen some players and you're going, you shouldn't be going anywhere near a pitch and they don't go back on. But I think the stigma now is starting to become a bit more better with the players. I think they now understand a lot more and a lot better what, the doctors are only looking after their health and everything else. So it's crazy to look at some of the things here.
So it's good. Munster looking fairly. Munster looking tasty here now. They're about 3 yards out.
Look at that
pass by Rog.
What's weird? That's interesting there. Sorry, Sean. That was a one-up carry. There's no latch on either side. That was just I'm picking the ball up and I'm going over on my own. Isn't it? It's like a totally different world.
But the pass before that, O'Gara puts in. Not that one. That's a good one. 2 left-handed long passes. You can't do that these days because somebody's going to intercept it and go 80, 90 meters.
Yeah. It's the one before that, isn't it? To that
but O'Driscoll holds up Kelly really well.
Yeah. Oh, for a small guy. Jesus. That close to the line. I mean, the guys were on the charge.
When did the latch come in then, Paul, roughly, and Sean? When was that starting to be coached?
I would have coached it.
Like mid-2000s?
That's typical Holley, claiming credit for everything.
No, I didn't invent it. I would have been part of coaching it. Probably around about 07, probably, something like that.
Is it really?
Well, it's not, it's not rocket science, really, when you think about it, Paul.
No, but when you see it,
when you're close to the line, you want to get 2 guys on 1 guy.
Yeah, but what I mean is, you didn't see it hardly. It was just if it happened back then, wasn't it? Whereas now you'd wait, wouldn't you, until the latch is behind you, otherwise you wouldn't.
Well, we had a structure. We would coach on slow ball, close to the line. You'd have a guy on the ball, a forward on the ball, a post, right, and then a guy directly behind him, which you would know as the latcher. Right. You'd either have the guy on the ball, pick it, and move to those 2 to be driven over.
Yeah.
Pop it to that guy, and then work to get there to drive him over. Or hit the guy behind who could tip it on. There's lots of little variations.
Yeah.
It's almost becoming that third set piece now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially getting close to the lines, a lot of teams picking and going and just taking the quick tap and taking it from there.
Yeah.
Well, especially when the refs sometimes don't actually ref when the guy is down and then goes again. So he's down, he's on a knee, and then he's basically a foot from the line. He goes again, and they're not reffing it,
Yeah.
Maurice O'Driscoll, John
Definitely
O'Neill
something that's
scored.
watched.
John O'Neill, yeah.
John O'Neill, who actually was. We'll wait till half time for that one.
God, the Leinster 8 hardly put his head in that scrum then.
But they wouldn't, mate.
Well, it was also Victor Costello.
Talking of that tight head, well, the first person in the pod tipping on a lot. Did you see any of the New Zealand stuff on the weekend? The way they're using their tight heads for those little flip-on passes. I tell you what, jeez. Like
I'm going to upset you now. I'm going to upset you. I'm commentating on Super Rugby Aotearoa on Saturday morning.
Oh, that's the final.
Oh, you're doing the S4C highlight show, are you?
I am indeed.
Oh, nice.
Commentating as live in English comms for the next 6 weeks.
With Rhys Ap Williams?
Well, he'd be doing Welsh, wouldn't he?
No, he's doing English as well.
No.
Oh, isn't he? Oh, I spoke. Oh.
It's me and Andy Moore doing English.
Oh, nice. That's a brilliant gig.
Oh, he might be, mate, but I would have thought he'd be doing it in Welsh.
That's fantastic. Been some good games in that. Crusaders Blues last week. Wow.
Sean
Yes, you do. Is it anything to do with Super Rugby Aotearoa? Is a collective pool here, my friends.
Yeah. Management of 3.
Do you know what I like that? I like a big, confident halftime whistle there as well. And you can hear Whitehouse's voice. He isn't relying on a ref link. He is bellowing all the time.
Do you know what, Andy? Like a lot of my mates are referees, right? It's by coincidence, but I know Nigel really well. He'd be feeling, and Paul will have worked with refs on this. He'd be feeling really good about himself that he's had to make a vital decision in a final, and he's nailed it on, and he's got it right. So he's in the throes of the game. He's seen it. That's why he instantly, and he's feeling good about himself that he's doing a good game, because I think he's going to have an assessor in the changing room now, telling him how he's doing. Even though he's an experienced international referee at this stage, he still have the assessor there. And, it is the right decision, isn't it? And for him to call it and make that call in a final, which is what they don't want to do, but he's had to do it, and he's done it. He's followed it through. So fair play to him.
Yeah, that's good. Let's have some, right, Mr. There we go.
Oh,
Paul's work here. Paul Larter has done some of the stats. Here we go. Halftime. What are we looking at?
Jesus, gotta get my glasses on.
Yeah, there's a lot of information there.
And me. Oh dear.
So
this takes me back.
We've got 8 lineouts for Leinster, 62% win rate. So they're losing a bit of ball. So shore that up at halftime. Same with Munster as well. Similar numbers.
What would you expect now nowadays, Paul? You come at halftime. What do you expect the teams that you're working with to be functioning at?
I think most teams will be wanting to function at 90% at least. They'll accept one maybe loss, but you get a few of those ones. It's you've then got to look at it a bit more. Penalty count's quite interesting as well. 8-5. Probably should have been a lot more, but modern game standards. Ball and play, 16 minutes worth of ball and play, which is quite modern as well.
Yeah,
I don't know what the average is, but just going on teams I've been looking at over the last few weeks, it's been sort of 30, 32 minutes, sort of in between there. Territory. The sports code's a little bit dodgy there with the points, so it always misses a little point out. But 51-49 there for the territory, so fairly even. Munster have had more possession, so it's and going on the 2 kicks. So Gara's missed as well. They could be in at 17-6 and totally different game coming out of the second half.
Look at the turnovers.
I know.
Wow, you'd be devastated. I'd be devastated.
So 11 turnovers, Leinster, as in turnovers conceded by Leinster, and 12 turnovers conceded by Munster. So this is in the first half alone.
Yeah.
So we're here.
24 match then, Jesus.
So if we go back, and this is really interesting. So we talked about how rugby has changed, right? So if you think about what we're seeing in the tackle and ruck area, if you look at stats now for rucks, firstly, there's so many more, and we'll get to that, right? But it's an automatic. It's almost an automatic now, whereas back then it wasn't the same thing. it's fascinating to watch these stats come out in a game you're watching live.
Yeah.
This is good.
Can I ask you one quick question to Paul? Can I ask a quick question, Andy, or have you got stuff you got to do? I just want to ask you about the line-out completion. So say if you've come off at half-time, and Sean will answer this, obviously, and the line-out completion is lower than you'd expect. Say it's running at 70 and you want it up the high 80s. Do they deliberately change the calls and make them simpler? So would you say, right, we need to throw a bit more front ball, middle ball, or is it just wise up?
I mean, you'd probably have that done before halftime, I would say. You'd
Right.
probably have a message coming on to say, let's just simplify this a little bit and maybe go to the front, or, the coach will be watching and, make a call to the physio on the far side and say, look, next one, the front's open, or, the tail's open. So take a simple option. Going to the tail's probably not the simple option, but, it's just... If they're competing heavily at the front and the middle, there might be, if we've got a good throw, try and get it over the top and try and get to the tail. It's, easy ball to win. So
I see. So you wouldn't even wait till half time, because you guys would have that data after 15 minutes and you'd get it on.
They've gone into the game with a lineup menu, right?
Yeah.
They go in with however many options they want in different zones with different types of throw. Based on what they've analysed, people like Paul would have analysed the opposition, how they defend, all right? And then when you watch it flash up to the coach's box, watch the forwards coach. While the game's going on, he's like this.
Yeah, cool.
He's in, right? Because he's a line-out nerd. He's just... And because the guy who calls a line-out or the line-out defence is also a line-out nerd, and they're thick as thieves. I'm right, Paul, and I? Then they're on the same wavelength. They're like telepathic, and that's all they, so they get a simple message on the 84's on,
Right, okay.
So he knows now for the next couple of lineouts, I'll just throw an 84 and whatever that means to the team. Hello.
So I'm going to come in because Andy can't follow instructions, unfortunately, at this stage.
Hang on.
He's no.
Naughty
I think he's going to do some social media. But no, one of the things I wanted to come in, I've two kind of just notes about this game, and one of them, I suppose, I was at this game, and I'd been away in college, came home for Christmas. Myself and my dad went along, and nobody really expected a big crowd at this game, and this game actually really. I suppose it's almost the origin point of the rivalry that we now know as Leinster and Munster. But it was the first year of the Celtic League. Nobody really knew what to expect. And I think roughly they were expecting a crowd less than 10,000.
Blimey.
30,000 plus turned up.
They had to open the terraces, didn't they?
No. They had to just open the gates to the stadium. They didn't have enough people there to take money for tickets. So the majority of people in that stadium did not pay to be there, because they just had to open up some of the gates, because there was just these huge throngs of people outside Lansdowne Road waiting to pay at the gate, and it just got to a point that they said, let them in. We can't process, people giving us their tenner, for their ticket as they come through the turnstiles, which is incredible. And but the majority of the crowd, as is very evident in the early days of that rivalry, even though the game was in Dublin, the majority of the crowd was Munster. So if you actually go looking for the pictures of Leinster with the trophy afterwards, they're the tight-in pictures. And when there's tight-in pictures, it's because there's not a big crowd around to celebrate the trophy with you.
Imagine working on the bar and they were going, there's only 10,000 coming, nice easy day. Next thing, oh my god, yeah. And the other thing, it was interesting to hear Sean mention Pat Garrity. So Pat Garrity is actually, again, Pat Garrity was a one-time media manager for Leinster before he became Munster's go-to man to corral the press and reporters and stuff. And if you read any of the Munster player autobiographies, you get a real sense of I think Pat harkens back to a day, and Sean worked with a guy at Ospreys called Peter Owen. They were very much part of the club and part of the first team management, and there was probably a different relationship there than exists in these days between the comms teams and the players.
Adam, are you trying to say Are you trying to say that you two got chewed out by Pat Garrity? Are you?
No. Funnily enough, I was
He
frightened of my own.
chewed me out on Twitter once, very publicly.
Oh yeah, I'd say
Pat
so.
Garrity?
Yeah.
Would
Well,
he? I'd go for a
Pat-
beer with Patsy, and I would, and he'd take you to some weird and wonderful places in Limerick and Cork. Unbelievable.
But Pat was a guy who had, I mean, if you read the players' autobiographies, and O'Gara tells a story of him basically clocking a French journalist who wouldn't, leave Munster training, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, he was very much, sort of part of the team
Hands-on.
spirit. Yeah, hands-on, very, very well. But I remember sort of in his later years in the role at Munster, and we were down in Limerick for a press conference, and just for people, I previous to this job, I was a reporter, so we're there for the press conference, and I think Paul O'Connell or Tony McGahan had just been up, and the next one was going to come in, and so whoever it was left, and Garrow turns around to all the journalists. He's like, "Lads, I'll be back in a few minutes. I'll go get whoever it is who's next up." So we're waiting there, and everyone's chatting away, and there's a bit of a delay before whoever the next player or coach is in to be interviewed. And Pat comes in and he goes, "Oh, such and such will be in now in just a minute." And he walks up to the desk where everybody leaves their dictaphones. And of course, Pat would record all the press conferences as well, so that they could do their own content for Munster Rugby. And he turns around to everyone, and he had one of those really old school ones that you had to put the tape into.
Oh, really?
And he lifted it up, and he just kind of turned around in front of everybody, and he pressed the stop button. So there's this really loud click, and he goes, "Don't worry, lads, got yous all on tape now."
Nice.
And he was, as much as he could have the bark and the bite, he'd a really good nature, and he's sorely missed, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Sorely missed.
Oh, nice.
How long are we giving
there you
everyone
go.
for half time?
I'm going now, and I'm going to
step
press
away for a
replay.
cup of tea, have they? Yeah.
No, we're going to kick off again now.
Okay, we're good. Okay, recharge your glasses. Do whatever you need to do. We're coming out again very quickly now. It's really good. I love watching Mick Galway actually with his ref work. It reminds me of it. Who's the Crusaders captain right now? Barrett?
Whitelock.
No, Barrett.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Barrett, yeah.
Yeah, he just goes up and he's got this sort of face where he's like going, "Yeah, Grant." Whatever the ref says, he's got the same look as in going, "Yeah, fair enough, yeah." And just, it's brilliant ref management. Love it. What's happening with the kickoff?
It's not
off
a
a
dropout.
tee. It's off a tee, my friend.
T.
Here we go.
High and deep.
Munster 12, Leinster 6. If you're just joining, Eric Miller was sent off after 25 minutes. We weren't really clear why. Nigel Whitehouse was very clear, and it was when we saw the second replay that Eric Miller had towed Anthony Foley in the spuds, and he was gone very, very quickly.
It was a street fight in kicking the nuts. That's what it was.
It is very interesting that games back these days had more penalties than they do now, except there should have been far more penalties than there are now.
Line out spell. I can't take my eyes off the body positions in the scrums. It looks like a league scrum, doesn't it?
That's so fast as well.
But look how high everything is.
Patrick Swain is coming with a comment. This is a good one and very relevant for this Six Nations time. What's so refreshing about this game? No water carriers. Very few stoppages.
It's probably why the line notes are rubbish. They couldn't get the message on.
I'm looking at Brendan Gleeson, great watch along, folks. Totally different game. It is a different game. That's why we're doing this. And we'll look at Leinster Munster this weekend live on Air Sports 1, Premier Sports 1, and TG Car. Look ahead to that. But now we're remembering back when, as we said at the start of the show, when we had old stadiums and proper jerseys. That's what we're here for, folks. I want to look at some of the people on the team because this was an interesting year. Paula Connell, we haven't talked about for a while. We should pick him up. He was only 22 in this game. Hadn't been capped yet. So he would only be capped in this upcoming Six Nations. He was still very
that's
raw.
Incredible.
And he was still just this young 22. He kind of had a mean streak in him already. You could see it at this age. It was really interesting.
He was always quite lithe, wasn't he, as a second row? You always remember him as like a big enforcer, but he was never like a massive unit, was he? He's always quite reasonably lightweight for a second row.
He was athletic.
Yeah, athletic. That's a good description. He's not like a Backy's Botha style, you know.
Or even think of Donegal O'Callaghan, right? They're very different shapes if you put them beside each other.
Proper 4-5, weren't they?
Yeah.
That's why they were so good.
There seems to be some kind of weird space object arriving down on the field.
Flare.
Leinster and Munster wouldn't have flares. Definitely not. Let's look at some other people in this game. Jim Williams, who got that rattle, a big rattle in the first half. There is no HIA because it's 2001 in this game. So Jim Williams had only just signed for Munster. So he was 32 when he signed for Munster, and he was there for years as player coach. So he had played for the Brumbies against the Lions that summer, and he'd actually played against O'Gara.
Good Lord.
And it was Declan Kidney was over, doing what coaches do, and he said, Jesus, everyone loves this guy. I want some of this, and they chose very, very well.
Yeah, good signing.
I think O'Gara will have a go at the post from here, funnily enough.
Is that the dulcet tones of Jim Neely?
Yeah.
Oh, there's another ledge. The privilege of working with old Jim. I always remember Jim because they gave him the boxing on Olympics, didn't they?
Yeah, the boxing. Yeah, he did a lot of boxing.
Yeah, he's a lovely fella. He's great to work with.
51 meters. That can't be right.
It doesn't look 51 meters.
That's 15 meters in from the halfway. Even on the angle.
Like, I know we have more standardized pitches these days, but that doesn't look 51 meters.
I see.
Tell you what,
he's flown over. Yeah. Maybe
according to if you ask Rog today, that was 63 meters.
We went out in 2000 and something, 4 maybe, and I've taken the kickers, practice kicking, and Rog is down at it was Musgrave, it was old Muzzy, and he's practicing. He's got a bag of balls, and I've got Matthew Jones, Sean Connor, and Henderson, and we're kicking away. And he's lovely, Rog. He comes across, he has a chat, and it's that and the other. So anyway, the next night was the game, and it was really feisty. And Matthew Jones was only 20 back then, white hair, outside half. Gavin Henderson at 12. Hold on, Hogan's through. He's kicked it again. They kicked the arse off the ball, didn't they? So it's a feisty game. Check. Henson's lost his head with Henderson, right? They're all pointing at each other. They're going to kill you. Henson's going, I'm going to kill you all and all this. O'Gara's going, Hendo, just run down this guy's channel. I'll put you through him. Anyway, Matthew Jones pipes up, this 20-year-old. O'Gara. And O'Gara just looks at him and he goes, what are you doing here? The under-12s are playing tomorrow.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the end of that.
Can we go back to that kick? That was just weird.
Yeah, why would you do that?
It's do just all the hard work, get in the 22 and then chip it into no man's land.
Is it because it was easier to win the ball back in those days, so possession wasn't quite as be-all and end-all? Because they seem to be a bit laissez-faire with it, don't they? Once you're in the 22, they're just kicking it and taking risks that you don't see now.
I'm almost trying to think, is it the other way around? So here we go, right. Producer Adam's giving it again, right? Where is everyone?
Go to ground.
Like, there's no way that Darcy's getting there.
Darcy's miles behind.
I'm almost thinking, is it because we're not as organised here in 2001. So there's actually more of a risk of losing it if he takes it
On
into
the floor.
contact.
I wonder, yeah.
Whereas now the referee will allow you. Like, I know you're only allowed one movement now, but like a couple of years ago, you could take that in and sort of act like a salmon on the ground for a while. You wouldn't have things, you know.
Yeah. There we go.
Very high-arsed scrum once again, courtesy of Paul Williams.
I've become really obsessed with scrums and lineouts over the last 4.
Look at the claw.
I was going to say the same thing. He's just looking at the touch judge, going, "You're giving me this."
Bang.
Yeah. So Munster 15-6 here now, and they're playing against 14.
Risky.
That could have gone the other way. There could have been Crotty gone.
Tell you what you don't want is a pass of that speed at your head. Look how high that ball is. Oh.
It's a dummy scissors pop, isn't it? Fine. Dummy scissors miss. He's in. He's in.
Dummy scissors, hospital.
There you go. Home crowd, the big walk-up crowd, very, very happy with that call.
Yeah.
Well done, referee Whitehouse.
Right, look, what's going on here now, right? Because Clausey is now propping on the loose head and Horan's on the tight head.
Straight down.
Or is this
Just a mess.
is this in reverse?
No, did we miss a substitution?
They must have switched. State on that.
There you go, another dive pass from O'Mara.
Here we go. Why would you
He done
kick
it
that?
again.
You got 3 and 2, Brian. Got the pen, though.
Every time.
You'd never kick that now, would you? Oof.
Unbelievable.
I know what, now that you're mentioning, Paul, I know what you mean about sort of the laissez-faire, but it's like
They don't seem worried about losing the ball because they know they'll get it back just as quickly. It's almost like people criticise Super Rugby for taking risks, but they take bigger risks because they get more ball.
Yeah, they take bigger risks. They know the other guys are going to do the same thing.
Yeah, so it sort of levels itself out.
Now we're getting to know why Munster did very, very well in the early noughties, right? Because they said, we're just going to stick this ball up the jumper and never, ever take those risks and kick the points all day long.
Yeah, don't kick anything in the 22. Well, how many kicks have Leinster put through in the 22?
An astonishing amount.
4 that I can remember, and I've got a dreadful attention span.
There you go, Nathan Spooner. Earn your coin here, son. That's from the Sexton slot, as I call it.
Yeah, it's a Sexton slot. I like that. It's there.
The posts are not high enough either. Posts are much longer these days.
I wonder if that's because of the kicking tee. There could be a correlation.
Look at how short they are.
Yeah, they're really stumpy, aren't they?
Well, actually, the Lansdowne Road posts used to be slightly crooked as well. They were never completely straight.
Go on, kick it, Shags. Kick it. There we are.
3 on 3 outside.
It's still odd seeing Horgan and Darcy in what you'd normally think of the opposite positions, you know? Because it's not until, this is 2001, it's not until 2004 O'Driscoll gets injured, so then we're forced then to see it's actually Horgan 12. They move Darcy into 13. Darcy becomes player of the Six Nations in 2004.
Right, yeah.
And then everyone's like, oh, okay, this could work pretty well. Could we bring O'Driscoll back beside this amazing centre and thus the greatest Irish centre partnership in history is born.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. We're
15
still in
as
this. Oh, he was as a schools player, he was unbelievable.
And then didn't he get injured? He had a bad run of injuries or something, didn't he? And he sort of he went backwards. I remember that, seeing him as a very young player. Oh, see Leo Cullen then with that swinging arm. Just came in from the side.
I think Rob Henderson saw it up close and personal.
Watch
Here's
now.
the replay.
So he just comes in on the side. There's that, and then there's Leo Cullen. Watch this. No point in that at all.
It's like we said at the top of the show. He's making life very, very messy. JD is a question in the comments, and it's a very good question, especially for people who did not see the old Lansdowne Road. What is the wee cottage in the corner of the stadium?
Oh, yeah.
There were two of them. So under the we're looking from the old west stand, which is the old stand. The one at the far side looks kind of like a modern stadium, right? The rest of the stadium was not in any way modern. And in this side we're looking from, there was a wee clubhouse at each end. There was the Wanderers Bar, and I think the other one was the Lansdowne Clubhouse. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And there were bars.
I think one was definitely the Lansdowne, wasn't it?
Then the other one was definitely Wanderers.
Because what was the name of the pub just around the corner? Was it the Beggar's Bush?
Yeah, I used to live across the road from it.
Was it the Beggar's Bush? I spent a few hours in there.
The Wanderers and the Wesley, is it?
Wesley was in Wesley's in Donnybrook. You're thinking of Wesley and Bective.
Donnybrook. I used to love Donnybrook.
Good little ground.
Oh.
Hold on. Here, we better do a live fact check, right, on this clubhouse business.
Let's get it right.
Yeah.
Ooh, he's good at that little kick.
Close to beautiful.
Oh.
I still think, other than Larkham, he's the best kicking 10 I've seen in terms of those little dinks into corners. What do you think? Anyone better?
He hasn't kicked one in the corner yet in this game.
You know what I mean? Over a career in terms of
Elwood.
Oh, Elwood. Yeah,
Elwood
that's true.
Could land it in the corner.
Yeah. Here we come. Bang.
Look how far away he had to run there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. A lot of space, isn't there? Oh.
Very direct running. It's good
Isn't
to
it?
see.
Yeah. There's none of this stepping into the out of the shoulder, is this? Straight through the core.
Yeah, that's actually a very good observation. So if you look at someone like a player like Robbie Henshaw now, right? When he's running it hard into contact, he is shifting feet and angles just before he hits the man.
Yeah.
Rob Henderson in that move is not doing that at all. He's just going, I'm strapping yourself in and I'm going to hit you very, very hard and run over you if possible.
Do you know, the best carrier, I think, at the moment at doing that is still Toby Fallater. You watch the way Fallater carries into contact. He never takes anyone head on. He's always just slightly slip to the left, slightly slip to the right. Fantastic.
Definite change in tactics on behalf of this Leinster side, but they do seem to be a lot more competitive.
Do you know what? When we're thinking about clear outs, there's one thing we're not really seeing as much in this game, right? We've seen some stuff which would not be allowed now, like Quinlan coming in around the neck. We saw the arm coming in from Cullen. That'll be picked up.
Yeah.
We don't see the low missile clear outs.
Yeah, the
game.
torpedo.
No. Crocker doesn't exist. Doesn't have to. It's just not here.
Yeah, it's true. Oof.
It's awful, like now.
You know, two jumpers up next to each other then.
Oh, that's a lovely line.
Nice ball change.
Oh, there's Anthony Horgan's through. Anthony Horgan was always you're right, he's a good all-round player, Sean.
Yeah.
Didn't ever have top flight speed.
What a tackle that was by Reggie.
He's offside. Oh, there's a punch there.
Swinging arm
Really?
there.
That's more than a swinging arm. That's like a UFC uppercut. That hasn't even been penalised. Oh, here he comes.
Yeah, touch judge is not impressed. He's definitely seen something.
God,
Right,
you could
but again,
Here's a touch judge. Here's a trivia.
there is
Have a
no.
look at him.
Clearly, nobody else's fault but his.
He's going swinging arm, totally unnecessary. It's a penalty.
Nigel Williams.
and the 15 threw a punch. They
I
haven't
don't
mentioned
think
it.
it was Quinny. I think it was 15.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
no,
15.
Quinny's in there.
15 definitely threw one. He comes flight and a
Look at
couple of.
Quinny go.
It's the wrong player.
It is. But it's because who would believe it was Dominic Crotty doing that?
They've both got scum caps on. I think it's a problem.
For disputed tries, I genuinely think the players should be able to decide.
Yeah, in fairness, over the course of your career at Quinlan,
Yeah.
you're gonna, it'll come out in the wash. You're gonna come out ahead of this one.
Referee looking at screens, picking things out, and ultimately making sure that that kind of thing is stamped.
So next time we
Or more important,
something we don't see a lot of right now is, especially in Irish rugby, is offloads.
the players responsible.
Paul, let's keep an eye out. Paul Larter, let's have a little look for a sneaky offloading game here from Munster over the next while.
That was a hell of a tackle from Reggie Corrigan. How did he get there? Windows off.
Well, he wasn't expected to play that week. He'd done a knee, but they were really, really thin on the ground.
Is that who's coming on here? Is that Federico Pucciarello? Remember him?
I do. I would have thought this was before him.
Yeah,
his
I think it is.
time at Munster.
Here they
That's
go.
good.
That's a great maul. That's got to be a pen, surely.
That's a maul and a half.
Oh,
Knock on.
And Munster have let that go forward, and that's going to be a Leinster scrummage. Munster once again.
That's the youngest Leo Cullen has ever looked,
Yeah.
and I'm including his school days.
Yeah.
I think
No, when they get tired, when they get into those
I
positions
coached
and they have
Welsh
possession,
students against
they know
Ireland
exactly how
students
to
that
go about
he
their
played
business.
in.
Just slipped up there, and if indeed
So
if
th-
maybe
I
you're
think
on
this
that
is
move
only a
right
year
now,
or
that's
two
left
after.
instead of right. I think that would have been a try.
How
That's how
old
young
is
he
Leo?
is.
How old is he now?
He's only
Twen-
he's a bit my
He's
age.
20
He's a bit-
years older than he is there.
What's he there? 22, 24.
He's about
24,
he's be about 42 now.
Yeah.
There we are. He'd be about 20, 22 there. Yeah, that's so not long. Not long. He'd been playing that Irish. I tell you who played with him was Des Dillon.
Oh yeah. 43 is Leo Cullen, says Super Producer Redmond. We've Bob Casey's come in. It's not Trevor Brennan coming in. It's Bob Casey. There was a player who should have had more Irish caps.
Yeah.
He went over to England during a very funny time for the game and did not get many caps.
Didn't he go to London Irish?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well read once again by Munster. O'Gara.
There's only 20 minutes left here, lads.
Another kick.
There's no way Leinster will come back and win this with 14 men.
I agree with you, even as a passionate Leinsterman.
At our times when it was a wonderful take, it's showing his fullback skills playing on the wing.
It's another odd kick, though, isn't it?
Played a lot of his rugby at
Here,
fullback.
can we pay attention next time the camera pans to the coaches' bus?
They really need to start.
The coaches' wives are sitting in front of the husbands, as in directly in front. There is no coaching box. They're just
All
sitting
right,
up in the stands.
In front of Matt Williams and Gaffs then, yeah. Imagine that. My missus couldn't think of anything worse.
Following you round watching rugby.
DDD.
Derek Davis. Oh, this is great. Love your videos and friend of the pod. Enjoying the game, guys. What do you think of the difference in defenses and the impact on the attack? I'm going to go to Scotland. Paul first.
I think we touched on it earlier on. It's trying to get up as quickly as they can, but I think nowadays it's more the line integrity, I suppose, is better, and they come up to a bit more faster, a bit more aligned, and it's probably harder for attacks to break through.
There's a lot of dog legs, isn't there?
Yeah,
and if you notice, first phase, a little bit aggressive, first couple of guys. Then you get to this phase, look at him. You got Quinny out there, look at Jim's overtaking him. There's dog legs, and they literally go sideways, so they're very passive. I can tell you now, in all our early analysis in the early 2000s, you play Leinster and Munster, and you'd go to the edge of first phase because they'd be soft. Now Driscoll's channel, out there, they would be holding off, so you would play like a flat miss 2 or a run around play to bring a 15 in that channel, and then go wide because you know on the way back they wouldn't be coming off the line, they'd be soft on the edge. So that's the difference. We've picked up the difference with look where they are, hindmost foot off the scrum, so that's a different one. And I think as well, you haven't got organised, Paul mentioned it, you haven't got organised set 1, 2, 3 pillars, because the forwards get embroiled in all this. Look at them. Have a look at the forwards off this phase now. They'll trundle across here, they'll chase the ball.
Hold on, so this is good. That's proper Dennis Hickey speed, folks.
It is. But you see now, and look at the mess as it pans out. Look at Frankie Sheehan.
Yeah.
It'll be a mess. So any line break and it's chaos. There's no line integrity.
Yeah.
I mean, back of a line out, it's all the folding now. Is it 2? Is it 3 folding? There's so the structure and the systems that are in place now. And I know that I think it was mentioned earlier. There was Matt Williams was coaching defence, but it's moved on so much. The defence coaches have got pages and pages and pages of information, to give to players, to try and learn. And it's so much analysis goes into that now. How can we stop it at source straight away?
Yeah. And as a layperson, you don't see the forwards desperately trying to get back to the ruck. In modern defences now, they're always trying to reshuffle, aren't they? Like, get back in there, we'll need to get further outside. Whereas once they're set in midfield, they're staying there.
Very, very interesting finish indeed. Dominic Crotty's just going.
That's the second big bang Crotty's got in this game.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a good hit, though. Well, I don't know if it was a good tackle, but he dropped him.
He did drop him with his face.
With his face,
they all count.
The old halfpenny angle.
Only 3 points in it now, folks. This is getting very, very exciting. See what's behind that? Directly behind that is the old schoolboy terrace. The funny raised bit. Get your cheap schoolboy ticket. Stand up there. Fergal JPC. What year did Dr. Phil arrive at Leinster? It was 2 years after this, I think, because he got signed when Spooner. Well, they wanted to keep them both. Didn't happen.
Oh my God!
What was that?
What's it supposed to be, though? Why are they trying to kick from there?
Oh, the old Rog drop.
That's up.
Rubbish. Got a bit tight there.
It's funny, I brought up a chip kick to play one of our opposition recently, and I got shot down by the head coach very, very quickly.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was it from the 22?
No, I was attacking.
Thank you, Alan Dardis. I thought I was right there, McGeady. Alan Dardis. We got Dave Holwell and Felipe the same year, 2004.
I'm gonna fact check.
2003, Brett says.
It was. Felipe was 2003. Now, he mightn't have played properly in 2004.
I don't think he did.
Because they butchered his paperwork and he played in, I'm going to say Carlo, I might be wrong, but it was somewhere that was not Leinster rugby.
I'm backing myself, Alan Dardis and Brett, that we've got right on Dave Holwell. Super producer is not happy.
Andy, now you know what the bullying feels like, don't you? When the cannons are turned.
We're looking good here. And here we go.
See, they didn't kick it. It didn't kick it, did they?
Do you know what? Fair play to Shane Horgan, though. Having been driven backwards in his first 4 carries, he's made some massive line breaks through the middle.
Look at that spring. The spring of Darcy's little run there.
He dyed hair as well.
Oh, he was quick. He was quick back then. And look at the speed of Hickey.
Lovely.
Nice ball swap.
Oh, Roger thought twice about going in for that. Yeah, look how soft they are on the edges now.
That's another 20-metre line break, isn't it? That looked a bit forward, that.
Well, it depends. I'm very confused about what forward passes now are, watching Super Rugby Aotearoa the last 2 weeks. Bloody hell.
Do not speak like that about my true love.
His 4th in 7 games in this Celtic League.
Still a long way to go as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's going to be the most important
14 men's.
this season.
I'm going to say that's not 33 metres.
I'm going to say
just
on the
gonna throw
angle.
it out there.
It's not even 33 yards. I don't know that, unless it's feet.
Look at his shirt out. Looks like my dad in the sort of late 70s.
Is it 33 feet? I don't know.
Well, the kick before it on the touchline was 37 metres. So.
Oh, hang on. There's an interesting development in the chat here about the facts, Andy.
Go on.
Holley is wrong.
Oh.
It says 3 words, capital letters, in brackets. It says P decrease after it as well.
Semantics.
Here's a good one.
Sure, it was 2004.
So Lawrence Veal is in the chat. Had the pleasure of playing against Hickey back when he was coming back from injury, tugging out for Mary's seconds. He ran in 2 from behind his own try line. That would be horrible if you were coming out for a seconds team and seeing Dennis Hickey warming up, just going like, yeah, this will be. Look at the size of Bob Casey.
He's massive, isn't he?
Like, he's the kind of player now where if the Irish system would not let him leave now, because you do not breed players of that size, like that bulk.
He's one of those players that I'm obsessed with the massive heads. That you just know they're massive just by the skull. He's exactly one of those, isn't he?
Was that your Reece Carre quote when he was coming through? Good prop, head like a bucket.
Yeah. I like a lock or a prop with a massive skull, because they don't need much weight training then, because they're just enormous. Big frames.
I'm gonna bring a comment in from Twitter, because this was a phenomenal, group of teams here you had at the time, and it was a good year for this. Connor Dempsey, 14 Lions between the 2 teams.
God, really? 14?
And this was a funny year as well, because it was 2001. It was foot and mouth. It was the year where the Six Nations got split. And 3 of the Irish games were played in the autumn. It was just a funny. We'll come back to that.
It was foot and mouth. I remember.
I've forgotten about that. Yeah.
So the England match, the Ireland-England, Ireland-Scotland, and Ireland-Wales were all put back after the summer, which was after the Lions tour. So the Irish players were actually put at a disadvantage for actually even just saying, "Hey, how are you going, coach? could you look at me, please?" Really odd year.
I have to say I've been very impressed by young Paul O'Connell.
Young Paul O'Connell.
Was Bob Casey. Spooner.
Another gap in the 12 channel.
This is looking good.
Oh, another kick, but does it work?
He's controlled it. Great finish. Horgan gets in.
That's the one there that it's the right option, isn't it?
Yeah, there's space to kick
Because it's
into.
come off.
I'm thinking of the stopped clock is right twice a day or once a day, whatever it is.
Do you know what I love?
This
Is
is-
look how accurate the linesman has to be. He has to give it in real time.
Great shout. You see the thumb come out straight away.
You see this, he's just in the corner and he looks once and it's like, bang, that's a try.
Yeah.
Where Munster might have been expecting it, and there's a first break that Spooner's made all day. Took them unawares. Arguably a penalty try, even if
It would have been a
Shane
penalty
Horan
try.
hadn't been able to follow that one up.
There
But
it is, look.
don't forget, we say that would have been a penalty try, but would they have given it in real time?
Well, that's the thing. Because you need the TMO for that call, don't you, really?
For a call like that, you kind of do.
Oh, I'm so sorry, boys.
Have you got it wrong? Or have you got it right?
Mr. Producer, can you check the 15th of October 2004? Ospreys 11, Leinster 3. Just saying.
Did Hallwell kick the 3, did he?
Holwell was playing.
Well,
He's been yanked.
there's suddenly technical difficulties with the Holly feed, folks. I don't know what's happened there.
Tell you what, you've got to love Redmond. That is top producing, that is. Didn't even get to finish his sentence.
I'll be expecting a new bottle of 12-year-old Loch Lomond malt.
Oh, that was brilliant.
October 2004 at St Helens, Swansea. In fact,
Yeah, this was it again. He really has perfected that.
Do you know what?
listen to this team. Dempsey, Brown, O'Driscoll, Contempomi, Hickey, Holwell, Easterby, Corrigan, Byrne, Nebbit, O'Kelly, Gissing, McCullen, Shane Jennings, Des Dillon. 11-3, thank you very much.
Oh, McGeady. You've had the
even-
treatment there.
Well, I'm still.
Do you know, I knew it was coming because he hadn't spoken for about 10 minutes and I knew he was on Google. It's like the other day when I had that mix-up with the scrum half from Treviso that Redmond caused, and I didn't speak for about 15 minutes trying to find my facts.
Because in the scrums, it's made it.
This is an amazing victory, man. It's Mick O'Driscoll, look at him.
Mick O'Driscoll's in. That's who Paula Connell replaced for this game. They said, let's go with the youngster for this game.
Wow.
Wow.
You know what? It is a great finish, though, isn't it?
Where they've missed that one man.
Back ball.
Munster have blown this, really, haven't they?
Yeah, massively.
And Colin McMahon. So they've only really got one specialist second row forward there.
So
I
wait
think
for the
that-
scrum. I was looking back at the. Do you remember I mentioned that New Zealand game?
Yeah.
So that New Zealand game was the game where Richie McCaw made his debut.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, I was sat up in the West Stand watching it. I was just, when you started going, I'm pretty sure that was the game. I just needed to go back to the team sheet to see.
Yeah. Check.
Himself and Aaron Major made the debuts. That's
No
a
way.
hell of a pair to make the debut.
Is it true that Ireland have had more wins over the All Blacks than they have Grand Slams?
Oh, my God. He's on fire now. You'll have us all killed, Ollie.
Holly, on your last appearance on the show, I'd just like to say it's been a pleasure working with you.
We'll have Irish Mafia in our case now after this.
Oh, God. Sorry. We shouldn't be talking about winning against New Zealand, mate. God.
And I shouldn't be talking about Irish Mafia. That's the Russians have upset the Iranians.
Don't upset the Romanians. Paul will tell you all about them.
Oh, man. I got enough problems with it. I'm on Interpol as it is.
No, 3 Grand Slams, 2 wins over the All Blacks. Thank you, Gavin.
Well done, Gavin.
I like Gavin. Gavin and Guth both straight in here. This is good. Steve Blair sold my schoolboy ticket at the gate on a number of occasions, spent the money in the pub before getting back in the school bus, stinking of polo mints.
Brilliant.
Stinking of Poland.
Brilliant.
And I'm
Steve
sure
Blair.
there was a general understanding with the teachers who were on that bus that as long as you didn't act the arse, everyone would pretend that they saw nothing, and it was
Absolutely.
fine.
I went on I won't mention names or schools, but I went on a couple of rugby trips that these days everyone would be going to prison.
But there was an understanding that as long as you didn't act the knob and get everyone into trouble,
Yeah. Or steal anything or hit anyone.
that's
Get
it.
back on.
Sounds very familiar.
I know. Yeah. The education system in the 80s.
He played well. That was Willie.
Oh, yeah.
The Leinster 10, he's played well, hasn't he? He's done all right.
Spooner, really, he had a really good game in this. Like, he's really smooth.
Do you know another little observation here as a layperson is that the hookers are still on the field. So they haven't pulled either hookers, and it's 75 minutes. Don't often see that now, do you?
You don't.
Sheehan's off. Oh, no, he's still on, yeah.
They're both on, both hookers.
What is one of the... There's a couple of big things that happen around this time, right? We'll go further back. We're only... No, do you know what? Shag that. There's only 3 minutes left. Let's concentrate on the game. This is just deliciously chaotic.
I love it.
Now is the first... Watch, look, we've got a prop in the back line purely because he actually hasn't got to the next breakdown because everyone's knackered. But it started to look like rugby now.
Yeah.
The analysis guy is going where I was going with that. Did they have full benches or was it just the 2 front rows? Yes, it was just the 2 front rows. But actually, it was 2 front rows at international level. I think they only had a 5-man bench in this game.
Oh, really?
I was looking for the team sheet. I could not find the damn thing. Harley Worthy, Sean Fitzpatrick would never leave the pitch for the All Blacks. Warren Gatland knows enough. Yes, Warren Gatland knows not about that. Ian Gilbert, hi from Madrid. How are you? Warren Gatland this year. We'll go for Gareth Davies' comment first. Backfield management is very different. Both teams getting away with loose kicking.
Yeah. They haven't got that pendulum, have they? It's just a fullback on his own.
Especially kicking off 10, you're looking to find as much space as you can nowadays and try and turn them a bit.
Yeah.
Wicked fresh. The rucking is horrendous. Munster players keep rolling over the ball and nobody's presenting the ball.
Can you imagine young referees going through this game now?
Having a panic attack saying, what is going on?
Lads and lasses, exam, we're going to go through the Celtic League Final 2001. All the best.
Yeah.
There's 100 multiple choice questions
for each ruck.
Number 1.
Yeah. The ref isn't even looking at the scrum engage there. It's just like the ball's going in and it's assumed it'll just come out somewhere.
Well, that's it. I mean, we're looking for different things as officials and fans actually when we're watching this game. You know, it is funny when you look like the teams here. There are people on this pitch who are now professional, but who played proper amateur for most of their careers.
Yeah.
You know, like we're in very early professionalism. It's 2001. 95 was the last amateur World Cup. The game goes open straight after that World Cup. Like, it is a completely different era.
Yeah, it's true.
You know,
and it shows, doesn't it?
Talking to referees, you could have a decent game by just waving play on and off back then.
Yeah. But the other thing is, nobody was analysing your mistakes on social media, were they? There was nobody instantly rewinding it as a GIF and going, look at that, he's off his feet. You know, it just disappeared into the ether, didn't it? Unless it's something dreadful that got on the news, you know, it was gone. I sound like one of those people who...
There's no hiding place whatsoever.
No, and it's instant, isn't it? You know, if you mess up now, it's on Twitter in 20 seconds. That wasn't straight.
But even more, can you imagine you're the journalist covering the game. So let's say you're the commentator. You don't get people picking apart your mistake, right? No. Let's say you're the sports writer. You are the voice of record for anyone who didn't see the game.
Right? Correct.
You don't get people picking apart your take as much at all. It's like there's this whole layers. The layers just aren't there. Hold on, Munster trying to do something very interesting in the last minute.
Oh, you know, it's a really interesting point you make. I mentioned it in one of my columns recently, that like pre-stats that we all became, obviously coaches had a lot more stats, but as a lay person, we've only really had access to proper stats for say 10 or 15 years. And you look at a lot of the reporting and the writing from back then and the punditry, and they'd say, why did they win? And the responses would be vague things like, oh, they just wanted it more, or they played with more passion. And, there was never, the line-out ran at 80% and it was all just almost described as emotions as opposed to objective sort of empirical evidence.
The ball was knocked forward and a Leinster man came in and then picked it up, and that is one of those peculiar offside decisions.
One of those peculiar offside decisions. I love that.
Munster going
Like-
for it. Prendergast,
Oh, don't we get a little flying wedge then?
But it's a little move,
It was a little move.
a little tap move.
There you go. The old play on from Nigel Whitehouse.
Play on.
Anthony Horgan in the corner, and look, you got the stewards with the old school netting to stop people running onto the pitch.
Yeah.
Gareth Williams here noticed the players haven't bulked up so much yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're looking at a kind of a different. There's very big players, the odd one, like a Bob Casey. There's much smaller players. There's naturally big guys, is what I'm saying, and not gym big.
Yeah.
You know.
The big difference is with the open side flankers, you notice that they look a lot slighter, don't they? At 7 back then, whereas you see 7s now, they're like monsters.
Gavin Doyle, cheers for filling in all the memory gaps, lads, but all this drink has forced me to have a beer or two. Could be a long evening as it's only 4:30 in the afternoon in Guadalajara, Mexico. Well done. Here we go. Leinster won. Leinster win. Watch behind the posts here for the worst fireworks celebration of all time.
That looks like arson. Is that deliberate?
My God.
Jeez.
It just doesn't quite work from the long angle.
Yeah.
I thought there'd been a riot then. I couldn't figure out what was going on.
No expense spared on the old fireworks celebrations.
It looks like someone's just thrown petrol on the wall and then someone just lit it. Oh dear.
That's looking a bit better now, in fairness. That's
a better
better.
angle.
That is a
Looks
better
all-
angle.
Yeah. Looks a little bit more.
Thought through.
That's where,
Yeah.
that's where you've got the event organizer and the TV guy on the same page.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
This is good. Like this good things didn't happen to Leinster for a while, in terms of Europe. Like this, you had Munster go on their run. We're building up to the 2006 semi-final where Munster got really, really worried that Leinster would actually pip them to the Heineken Cup. But this really kicked off something. I'm really, really glad we did this game today. Love it.
And me is really good. Fair play to O'Gara. Look at that, doing autographs instantly. Look, he only just lost.
He learned how to do joined up writing for that. He's only 12.
It should be a tradition. Every year prior to the final, we pick a year. I could think of a couple I could throw in if you're struggling.
We're not doing any Ospreys wins. None.
No, we do. Whoever's in the final.
Holley's
don't we?
title wins.
We do whoever's in the final. That's what this was about. We've got a grand final on the weekend, and we go back to this one, which has been great, isn't it? Look at that, fabulous.
It was true, the point that Adam made. Like, they did not expect this crowd to be that big for this game. It was way, way more than they thought.
Munch.
Yeah, Adam Redmond's just put a little thing in our chat saying all of the footage is missing from any of Holley's Ospreys wins.
Yeah, we had a big flood here, and we just lost it all.
It's all gone. And the
They've lost all the
EDF.
Cardiff Blues ones as well, Paul.
Yeah, it's all gone.
Yeah, well done. Now, keep an eye on that trophy, right? Keep an eye on
there's
this
a story.
trophy, okay? Now, hold on, because I've been doing some research. Right, it's right there in the middle of the shot. That was, I think I'm right in saying, December 15th, okay, of 2001. And I'm going to read you a report, which was published Sunday, the 23rd of December of the same year. Gardaí, which is the Irish word for policeman, have appealed for the return of the Celtic League trophy, which went missing as Leinster celebrated their win over Munster on December 15th in a Donnybrook pub. This is in the report. The cup was brimming with a mixture of beer and spirits at its last sighting.
Last sighting. That's great.
We move on to the 24th of December. Leinster coach Matt Williams paid tribute to the Gardaí for their efforts in retrieving the Celtic League trophy this weekend.
That's fantastic.
How it escaped from our post-match celebrations, we don't really know, but we are very grateful to the police, said Williams. Apparently, it was returned to the police after some old-school intervention by the authorities. I can quote this. This is great. Sorry, I thought this was off the record. The Pro14 tournament director was asked about this afternoon. He remembers it well. Apparently, the chief of Dublin Police, who has something to do with Leinster, let the Dublin underworld know that there would be recriminations if the trophy wasn't returned. Miraculously, someone said they found it and handed it back to police.
That's fantastic.
I love this. This is
a
great.
simpler time, wasn't it? 2001.
Old school police. Lads, you've had your fun. You've had your fun.
Give us the trophy back.
Give us the trophy back.
Yeah. That's it.
This is great. All right, stats from the game.
Right. Where do we finish up?
Lineout's got a bit better.
Yeah, they did. So if you include first and second half, they've been, what, about 80% in the second half?
Yeah. Got a bit better.
Still not up to the required 90%, though, is it?
How many turnovers do we have in this game? 17 by Leinster, 24 turnovers.
That's a lot.
That's massive for that.
Yeah, it is.
That type of game.
What would be the margin now, roughly, Paul? You'd be looking at like 11 to 14, or
it varies with different teams, and
I see.
It varies to whether you give them away in your own half, the opposition half.
Yeah.
Are you chasing the game? You kind of allow them to make a mistake because you're chasing, but
I see.
If they're in your own half or in your own 22 and you're giving away the ball, scrum, and then they score, that's the type of things you're trying to stop. But
Can we talk about the number of set pieces in this game? Okay, 15 plus 17 lineouts, plus 16 scrums for Leinster, plus 6 scrums for Munster. Quick maths, 54. Right, so you got 54 scrums and lineouts in this game. So how does that compare if you go over the years? It was probably over the odds even for that time, okay? Because I went back, did some looking. Six Nations, and I know this wasn't Six Nations, but Six Nations 2002, you'd have an average of 33 lineouts and 24 scrums per game.
God, it's double the amount of scrums.
It's even more, right? So then we get it sort of fades off. But then by the time we get to these days, the last two World Cups, you've had 2019 Six Nations and Rugby World Cup, 25 lineouts per game, and between 11 to 14 scrums per game. Just different world. And the rucks and mauls have basically doubled in the last 20 years, and they're mostly rucks.
Good Lord. So does that mean handling errors have dropped massively?
No, they're able to retain the ball for longer phases now, aren't they? Right. So therefore, that eats up more time and less scrums.
Yeah.
The kicking game is more in-field, I would imagine, than it is off-field, Paul. Therefore, there's less lineouts. Lineouts, so much analysis, and they're contested a lot more. That some sides don't want that many lineouts.
Yeah.
You only want lineouts in certain areas of the field. Yeah. So
the restarts for me is a big one as well. You score a try, then get the ball back to you, and you lose the ball straight away. It's that sort of restart and then exit type mentality of get it away and put them back under pressure in their own half and try and win the ball back.
Sean, you always call it the third set piece, don't you, Sean? The the
Well,
restart.
yeah. There's another one now that we mentioned, and that's thanks to Exeter Chiefs. That's the tap penalty again, isn't it? But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the only reason I call that the third set piece is because you have either just scored, and therefore you're receiving a very important part of the next thing, or you've just conceded, and therefore you want to have good field position or retain the ball back. So it is very, very important.
Yeah.
Very important part of the game.
I'm just thinking, you asked about the scrums. Someone got back to me yesterday with an interesting point. Ken Quarry, who's actually one of the New Zealand rugby boffins.
Yeah.
He said there's a major change in the application of the laws rather than the laws themselves. It's the amount of advantage played. So the length of time with the number of phases. So therefore, you've got a decrease in the number of scrums per match because they're going back for the penalty and it's not open play.
I've got
that was a nice little subtle one. Gordon Darcy got back with one as well, and it's a subtle one. He reckons the most impactful law change was not a law change. It was the law of unintended consequences of almost every bloody law change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Brett Igo's still there. Ball and play time is a lot less too. I think we need to get
for the top level games, I would imagine a bit. Yeah, you're probably looking 40 plus, aren't you?
Yeah. What do we think about? Yeah, sorry, I mentioned the foot and mouth stuff. Yeah, the foot and mouth was insane if you look back, and it's really interesting because we're in this weird place where stuff gets cancelled now, and we just have to deal with it and move on. But it was so much more localized then. Like this year they just invented a trial game between Munster and the rest of Ireland 15. Like, imagine that happened now, just even with contracts and all that, to be going, are you joking? Really? That wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Let's talk about predictions for this weekend, folks. This is going to be a good game. Sean, as you drain your crystal glass.
45-28.
Is that France over Scotland, or is that
France? That's France, Scotland, which will be enough, I think, for us. Happy with that.
Yeah.
And I think I have to stick with Munster. I have to stick with Munster because some weeks back now, when we first started talking about never back against Munster, remember that, Paul?
Yes, I do.
I then said, okay, I'll put my money where my mouth is and I'll back Munster. And just recently, Leinster haven't been quite firing, have they? It won't be easy because the real Leinster may turn up, and a lot will be on who they pick, but they got so much depth, that we've said this before. I'm going to go for, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go for the same score as the 2001 final. How's that?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In reverse, for Munster to win.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry, I thought you were actually just really sucking up your original prediction.
No, Munster. I have to stick with that now.
Okay, here we go. Get your thoughts into the comments there as well, folks. Leinster by 6 says Gareth Williams. Marcia Driscoll says Munster by 2. There's been some good comments in there during it. We have been told, there've been sort of little bits out into the press this week. No IRFU restrictions on the players that they can pick, after the Six Nations and all that. There are a number of injuries that the camps are dealing with, especially on the Leinster side. But we should expect pretty much full strength. Mr. Larter, on debut, dazzle us with a prediction here.
I think Leinster have got it. I know they've had a couple of unlike Leinster results recently, but when they get to final mode, it's different beast, and I can see them winning by 10, I reckon.
I agree. I think that with their first team, they're 10 points better than Munster. So congratulations, Munster, on winning the title. Because I've just cursed you.
CJ Stander.
Yeah, MOM.
There's going to be a lot of emotion, I think, for this one. Sean O'Farrell says Leinster by 7. I'm looking over a different screen. The bookies have Leinster by 6.
Bookies are never wrong, Holly.
We'll see what happens this weekend. Folks, we have to. I've been told to wind this up. We've been going for 2 hours. Thank you to everybody who's joined us tonight. We've done watch-alongs before in different times. Happily enough, we have actual rugby to look forward to this weekend. So live on Air Sports 1 and Premier Sport and on TG Car, we have the Guinness PRO14 Final, Leinster against Munster, live from the Aviva Stadium. We're looking forward to it. I hope you enjoyed this little different thing we did tonight. Thank you very much, Paul Larter, from your base in Bucharest, with a sleeping coach nearby.
Yes, somewhere.
for your legwork pulling together those stats and for bringing us some knowledge. Thank you, Paul Williams, for escaping the Russians and your polonium recovery. Thank you, Sean Holley, and well done for trying to best me on a couple of facts. And thank you to all of the live fact checkers there in the comments too. That was it. That was Under the Sticks, the pre-final edition, the watch along. My name's Andy McGeady. We're done. Talk to you soon.